Welcome to another episode of our podcast, One Door at a Time, Concentric Educational's platform where we talk about education, entrepreneurship, community, and just overall bringing guests on to share their experiences. I'm joined by a legend. I'm here with the OG legend, Principal Kafele. Thank you so much for dropping by. Everybody in education, I would argue, knows about you. The work that you've been doing for a long time, the jewels that you're dropping. But I also think what's really important, because we're tuning in every Saturday morning of what you're doing, is your intentionality and your mentorship. Yeah. You do an amazing job. You're very gracious with your time. Yeah. I remember reaching out, cold email to you probably like a year and a half ago. Saw you in Atlanta at NAPSI, and we exchanged numbers. You said, just hit me up. We'll figure it out, man. So thank you so much, good brother. You're an elder. We stand on your shoulders. Thank you for continuing to doing it. Talk about your journey. I want to get into your works and everything that you've been doing, but that journey is so important. Like, how did you get here and doing what you're doing?
Yeah, that journey is important. I just don't discount it because I'm a 5-year high school student. Yeah. Straight F's, and not that I wasn't capable, but I lost interest because I'm dealing with other things in my life, traumatic experiences and all that kind of thing. Uh-huh. So I'm not focused. So my mother's moving me around from school to school to school. Okay. And eventually I graduate 5 years later after having visited 4 different schools and had nothing to show for it. So I don't even know if I had the credits. I think they just said, we ain't doing another year, 6th year, know. So then for the next 5 years, I did nothing. I enrolled in junior college. Really? Yeah, I enrolled in junior college, but had, just hung out in the student center. They put me on probation, put me out. Then after the probationary period of being gone, then I come back and do the same things. I did nothing. And then decided to go to undergrad school 5 years later. So we're talking 10 years of nothingness, right?
Where'd you end up going?
Kane University in New Jersey, which was Kane College of New Jersey at the time. And I stumbled literally on Malcolm the day I got there. In other words, I went to the library my first day. I had never read a book in my life, not cover to cover. I know how to read, but I saw no use in reading. So I go to the library only because I said, okay, maybe the smart people are here. I'm trying to do something with my life. That's the only reason I'm in school. I don't know what to study. My mother said study marketing because I had no dream, no ambition, no nothing. I said, what do I study, Mom? She said, try marketing. Okay, I'll study marketing. So I go to the library just because I figured that's where the smart people hang out. Uh-huh. But I wasn't gonna roll up on nobody and try to be friends. I'm just in there. So I said, well, get a book while you're here. Somebody didn't push a book in all the way. So I'm literally walking up and down all the aisles saying, the left side of my brain is saying, get a book, the right side saying, but you don't read, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm walking up and down the aisles, and then finally I see a book that somebody didn't push in all the way. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what the title is. I can't see it. It's just partially protruding on the shelf. Mm-hmm. So I pull that off. I don't even look at it because I don't want to read. I go and sit down. Then I look at the cover. The title, To Kill a Black Man. Subtitle, The Shocking Parallels of the Lives of Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I don't know either one of them. This is 1984. I know they were born. Yeah. I can give you maybe 2 sentences on Dr. King and a distorted sentence on Malcolm. Mm-hmm. But I sit there and read that book until it's time to go to class. I go to class for an hour and change, then I come back and I stay in that library till midnight. So they said to me, you gotta go. Reading it? Reading that book. They said to me, they said you gotta go. I said, well, how can I keep this book? Because I don't know anything about borrowing books from a library, right? They told me. I took the book home. And I read that 250-page book probably within 48 hours. And from that point, I'm a different person. So now, from then on, I go to Liberation Bookstore in Harlem and I buy everything off the shelves over a period of weeks on Malcolm. I just want to know Malcolm. So I have about 25 books on Malcolm. Then I said, now I want to know King. Same thing, every week, catching the A train uptown. In Harlem and buying everything off the shelves. Now I want to go deeper. I want to know African American history. So I'm reading. My mother's so happy her son's reading. She's giving me all this money. I'm coming home with these big bags of books. But yet with school, I'm maintaining a straight A average, right? This failure of 5 years because that history is introducing me to myself.
It opened up.
Yeah, I didn't know me. So now I'm like, oh, well, I can handle this because I stand on the shoulders of greatness. So I graduate summa cum laude, and I do it in 2 years, right? Because I'm doubling up. I had a few credits transferred over, but I convinced the deans at the school I can handle anything because that history made me think I could fly, right? So I continued to read and read and read, and that poured into who I became as an educator.
So talk about, so it seems like that the one book unlocked you, right?
Yeah.
So for similar to me, I was kicked out of 5 high schools, right? Like I got my GED and high school diploma in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 27 months on 8 years.
Wow.
Right. But it was someone in prison that really, like I knew because I was a pretty good student and just had some trauma, but it was someone that gave me something in prison, right? Like gave me a book and was like, yo, like young brother, like this doesn't have to be your final destination, right?
Yeah.
So as you're going through school, you graduate. What made you then say, okay, I want to be an educator?
Yeah. As I'm doing all that reading, I know I want to teach.
You did?
Yeah. I figured that out.
Okay.
Because in my mind, I want to teach what I'm learning. Now, I'm too naive to realize that most of what I'm learning, I could never teach it. At least I thought that at the time, right? Over time. But I said, I want to teach young people, but I'm locked into this marketing degree and I don't want to start over.
Okay.
So I went on and got the marketing degree and entered after about several months, got a job, and hated it because that's not where I wanted to be. I mean, it was so bad. And I'll give you this example. We worked in these cubicles for this insurance company.
Okay.
And I was bringing my books to work every day. So I will never forget one day I brought along with me the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, right? So I go to they had a lot of black employees. This was in Newark, New Jersey. There had a lot of black employees. They all had their own cubicle. I made photocopies of a chapter, stapled them, and I put them on everybody's desk in the cubicle. I'm like 25 years old. I said, look here, y'all read this, and I'm gonna check back on you in about a week. So at that point I said, I'm in the wrong environment.
Yeah.
I need to be teaching. So New York City had a severe teaching shortage. It was a state of emergency for them.
Okay.
Whereas Jersey, I'd have to go through a process. So I said, wow, let me see how severe this is. So I went to the Board of Ed. They said, yeah, we just need you to take a quick exam. We'll give you two written questions and 1 verbal. That's it? Yeah. It's all scenarios. So the first one, write an essay about a scenario that could happen in the class. Second one, same thing. Third one, they asked me a question. I answered. They said, you pass, go get a job. Here's a listing of the vacancies. Well, I wanted to be with black children. I went to Brooklyn and I called the principal.
This is before Brooklyn is what Brooklyn is now.
Oh yeah. So I called, oh yeah. I called the principal. She said, come on in for an interview. This was in November, 1988. She said, wow, very good. Can you start tomorrow? I'm scared now. Start tomorrow. Like, what do I know about teaching kids? I didn't know it was going to be that quick. Yeah. I said, yeah. So I went that next day, and I've been on that trajectory ever since.
What grades?
5th.
Oh, wow.
With the average student in the class, the overwhelming majority of them had been retained twice. So these are kids who should have been 7th graders.
So take me back just a little bit, and then we'll go back to New York. You grew up where in
East Orange, New Jersey.
East Orange, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I wear East Orange on my sleeve. Yeah.
No, I remember doing home visits up there. I did it like right before the pandemic and during the pandemic. It's interesting. I'm familiar with Newark, right? Because when I was doing visits in Newark, Roz was a principal. Roz was at Central
High School,
right? And I was doing visits for Shabazz, Weekway. You know what I mean? Like it was very interesting from West Side. Yeah. And then you go all the way over to East Side. Like even now when I go to Newark isn't Newark, right? Like from what they got the Whole Foods there, the Nike outlet.
It's changed a lot.
So what were some of the first things that you learned, experiences when you became a teacher? Oh,
that it's not for everybody. It's like here we are in 2025, and there's this word equity, diversity, equity, inclusion, and everybody's all spoofed about this thing called equity right in the center of diversity and inclusion. And that language wasn't used back in those days of equity. But for me, I got 25 youngsters in the classroom, 88, 89 school year. Well, they're all different. Even though they're black, that's where it stops, right? They're different. If they're going to be successful, and this is me having not taken one course in education yet, right? All my background's in marketing, but the marketing allowed me to be effective in the classroom, because as a teacher, we all have something that we're trying to convey.
Yeah.
Well, many of us don't. We're in there content-wise intelligent, but we don't know how to take that and give it to the next person, a child. So when I thought that I wasted my time with that marketing degree, I figured out, no, I didn't waste my time. I'm a salesperson. I have to know how to take what I got and make it so convincing, so compelling that youngster says, I want that too.
Absolutely.
Right? So going back to the question with equity, I'm being equitable without having that language until 2012-ish, right? So I tell people now, stop running away from that word. Equity means meeting the children where they are as they are. It's not the boogeyman. It's not a four-letter word. It's it's great teaching in a classroom when I have the ability, the skill set to meet you where you are, regardless of where that may be. Absolutely. And as you are, regardless of what that may be.
Absolutely. So as you're going through those initial years of teaching, when did things start switching to, okay, I'm going to get into administration?
Yeah. After that first year, my wife and I had our first son.
Yeah.
We decided that I would be the one to stay home. So I didn't, matter of fact, I subbed a year in Jersey. That's what it was. I wanted to get my feet wet in Jersey because I knew I was coming back home to East Orange. So I did that year. Then my son was born.
Okay.
And so I'm home every day. So I said, well, since I'm home, my heroes are authors, activists, speakers, and even motivational speakers. I said, I want to do what they do. So let me write a book while my first is asleep. So every day.
You were doing that early on?
Yeah, I wrote my first book in 1990. So he sleep all day, and when he wakes up, then I'm attending to him. But then when he goes to sleep, I'm writing. So after I finished, okay, now I got a manuscript in a coil-bound notebook. What do you do with it? I'm not going to waste my time trying to find a publisher because they're not going to publish me. I need to find out what this thing called self-publishing is. So there's a brother down in Virginia, Khalifa, and he taught me everything. So I raised money through the family, printed the first 100 copies of A Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children, in parentheses, outside the classroom, and hustled that book for the next 2 years all over New York City, all over Jersey, Philadelphia. Just get a carton of books on my shoulder. By then we're printing more than 100 copies at a time. We're printing 5,000 at a time because they're selling like that. So it eventually became the Essence Magazine #1 bestseller nonfiction, a little $5 self-published book. Of all those books that they have as their #1 bestsellers, here's this little book that I'm hustling on the streets. But keep in mind, during that era of the late 80s going into the 90s, that's when you had black bookstores all over the country. You had over 1,000 of them.
Yes.
So I'm in all of them, right? All of them. So now not only am I hustling on the street with my little book, but I got them in all these stores. And in essence, they would track their sales through black bookstores. So hence, here we are. I still haven't taught in East Orange yet, but here I am, the number one bestseller. Which when people ask me, how is that even possible? You're an unknown author. Who knows you? You're not. You barely got out of high school. All that stuff. I said because once I've read that history, I was on a mission. I understood what grind looked like, felt like. What I needed to do every day in order to get to where I was at that time, and I continue to live that way now.
It's amazing is that, like right before you came in, I introduced you to my frat brother, Anthony Morris. We created another entity called Redemption because he's going through something. We have a lot of shit. He's from Brooklyn. And so we have a saying, # the grind is real.
Yeah.
And you speak to that, is that they see who, like, the world sees who you are today. And it's such an accomplished speaker, author, mentor, right? That's what comes to mind to me when I researched you, when I've listened to you from afar. Is like you're a mentor, you're an OG, and I say that humbly and respectfully. Is that you've brought so many people along with you, and you've poured into a whole lot. But that they don't see what you just said. Like,
they don't see that part.
They don't know.
I tell them, but they're not going to know that unless I tell them, and I don't shy away from it. So I do share it, and we go in a lot more depth than I'm doing here, just because I want folks to understand, because people will see me, running around like whatever I post. So I'm in this city, I'm in that city, I'm doing this training, I'm doing this keynote, whatever it is. I said, but y'all got to understand, I went 20 years before the door opened.
I'm 16 years in, and they think
it happened overnight, like you said. No, I'm grinding, I'm crawling. Yes. I'm bleeding on my knees. I'm crying. I'm in tears. I'm broken down because I'm trying to get into these conferences because I know that's where the future clients are. That's where the prospective clients are sitting in those audiences. Those doors are nailed shut.
Ain't no one will let you in.
Or if they let me in, they give me the last day, Sunday at 4:00 when everybody's already on the plane going home, and the only one in the convention center is me and the custodians, right? So,
wow, bro.
But I said, that's all right. I'm coming, right? So y'all can keep saying no as long as you want. I'm coming. So when I see all these African Americans on these stages now at the mainstream national conference, I'm distinguishing that from, say, black conferences.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
These mainstream national conferences where we need to be, and I see all these African Americans, and I take pride. And a lot of times I'm thinking to myself, I said, they don't even know my grind, man. They don't. A lot of them, that you don't realize you on that stage because I busted my behind in order to get on this stage and open this daggone door so that you can come in here.
Remember,
right.
We weren't. And this is even for me, it was rough for us to get at least when I first started, right? Like you were the trailblazer. Like, so what you've been able to do for so long, like what you're going on 35 years?
Yeah, I'm in as a speaker, I'm in year 39 right now.
And I say this humbly, right? The AASAs weren't letting us in.
Right.
The ASCDs were not letting us in.
Right.
Like, we had to grind at the NAPSIs.
Yeah.
Right. And all those other things. So with the break with the book, what do you think was the breakthrough?
Oh, I know what it was.
Okay.
March 2004, ASCD National Conference. Just on a chance, I sent them a proposal. So, because ASCD is big time.
It was big time.
I sent them a proposal, New Orleans, Muriel Convention Center. And they said yes. And I was like, wow. So I'm still a principal at that time, right? Okay. And so I get there early to get my own PD while I'm there.
Yeah.
So I get there on a Friday. So I'm going to sessions Friday, but I'm stopping by that room. I'm going to sessions all day Saturday. My session's not till Monday. I think it's the last day, but I'm going checking out that room. Now that room was a 300-seater, so I'm intimidated not by the number of people that could potentially come in. I'm intimidated by the fact I might be talking to an empty room. Like that would be embarrassing. You gave me a 300-seat room, and it's going to be empty. So then Sunday, I kept stopping in there just looking. Oh my God. So then Monday morning gets here. Now my topic was African-American children, something, right? So Monday gets here. My session's at 8. I arrive a little before 7 and sit outside the room. And I said, man, look at all these people going in that room. So I'm still sitting there. Man, look at all these people. So then at 7:45, I still didn't go in. Nowadays I'd be in there an hour early, but what did I know? This is my first time, first rodeo. 7:45, someone comes and says, session closed. Can't nobody else come in. I'm like, oh, because I know the size of the room because I've been peeping it since Friday, right? So now I'm looking at the volume of people that are being turned away who are upset. So then finally I walk in the room. Ain't no PowerPoints yet, overhead projector with plastic film, right? So I walk in there, I'm like, look at all these people. So I do my thing. It's not normal to give a standing ovation for a breakout session. All them people, they sitting in the aisles because it's standing room only. They sitting down in the floor. They all got up, man. Then somebody said, where's your contact information? See, I ain't thinking like that yet. So I don't have anything. I don't have anything. They said, you have a website? No.
Nope.
You got any business cards? I had something with my phone number, right? I said, I got like 10. They had a table set up for the overhead projector. Imagine 300 people storm the front of the room, knock the table over, the glass on the overhead projector breaks, right? And they grab up them 10 cards. So I started yelling out my phone up, here, take this number. Let me tell you this. That started April 2004. I've been riding that wave ever since.
Wow.
Ever since. Because everything I've done to this day grew out of April 2004 in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my breakthrough. I was still a principal until 2011. But I would slip out during the summers, Friday nights to speak Saturdays, and vacation weeks, all that kind of stuff. It was always business, because of what happened in New Orleans. The word got around, Baruti Kafele, and eventually I started using Principal Kafele, and I've been riding it. But I say that to folks who will see this podcast, the years before 2004 and the way I was grinding, man. Y'all can't, like the people who will see this, you can't think like I lucked up in 2004 because I was grinding too hard to get to 2004, So once I got there, then I kind of knew, okay, here's what you got to do to build it. Because this is what I'm living right now in 2025. This is what I wanted. People say to me, what's next? Ain't nothing next. This is what I wanted to do. I'll just continue to evolve within it. But there's no like, all right, let me shift over to this, let me shift over to that. No, I'm living the dream.
So your platform has, like, I'm talking about the digital platform that you're doing, like the books. Like, how do you decide, or as you're evolving in this, like, how do you decide, like, okay, this is kind of how I'm going to shift, and this is what I'm going to do with it? Like, what's that process?
That's like so funny you asked me that, because I wrote this as a post today. I'm sitting in Newark Airport, and I said, look, I'm 39 years in. I said, but the reason that I'm 39 years in is because I had to constantly evolve and pivot. Because if I'm doing the stuff I was doing in the 80s and the 90s, what makes me relevant in 2020 all the way to 2025? I got to pivot with the way the world is. Like one of the things I tell a lot of people, because I was the equity guy.
Yeah.
I was him.
Yeah.
since
even before it was equity.
Yeah. Before it was it was a thing.
Yep.
So now, since January 20th of 2025, I've lost 5 conferences.
Because of that word.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean they said, Kafele, you can't come. I mean, the conference said, we ain't doing it.
We ain't doing it. Yeah.
We're going to lose our funding.
Yep.
So now the clients, in terms of when it's me, the client will say, Kafele, you can't use that word equity. I said, oh, well, let's be clear on what it means now, because there's a million definitions. Let me give you the one according to Kafele. Meeting the children where they are, as they are. Where's your issue? Where's the political connotation? Oh, that's what you're saying? Yeah. Meeting that youngster. Now, if we want to talk about the racial, cultural diversity, that's part of the conversation. But I'm going to its core, meeting young people where they are, as they are. So I have made so many pivots over the years for 2 reasons. One, because I get bored with myself, and number 2, because the world keeps changing.
Yeah.
Like here I am, the core of my work today is instructional leadership. That's my brand right now. But that wasn't who I was 2 years ago. Something else was my brand. And then 2 years before that, something else was my brand. I look at the landscape and I say, okay, in leadership, a lot of principals, many assistant principals, we ain't getting that part right. We're not those coaches that teachers need them to be.
Absolutely.
So let me go hard right there.
But also, brother, that's because, like, when I was coming up, like, I only was in the classroom 1 year and I became an administrator. One, I was young and dumb. I just wanted a walkie-talkie, right? But also is that, you know what I mean, I was pigeonholed, and I allowed myself to be pigeonholed into culture and climate. I could relate with kids. You know what I mean? I was a disciplinarian, behavior specialist and stuff like that. That instructional piece is so key. Like, I was just with Superintendent Thompson. He's in Dorchester County. He started as a special ed teacher 20 years ago. And he dipped specifically, deep dive into instructional, right, piece, because he didn't want to be, typecast. That's all he could do is settle down a building, that he could instructionally lead. Like, how did you make that decision to deep dive into instructional leadership?
See, I was you. I was him. I was a culture climate guy. And the community knew that in a good way. That, man, Kafele, man, that's my kids, my children are safe there, right? My children are somebody there. You know, everybody understood that. But I learned that having a culture, having a climate that are conducive to teachers being able to teach, it didn't translate into achievement if I wasn't that instructional leader. Now I'm talking about me as principal now versus me as speaker. So now I said, I have to be instructional leader too. I can't just be the guy that's running around motivating everybody every day. Because that's what I did. You know, I'm engaging with kids every day, all day. In between classes, cafeteria, before school, after school, wherever I sit, you know, I'm engaging with them, right? So I said, but that's not translating into math achievement, right? It's facilitating. But in terms of the nuts and bolts, that teacher's got to be phenomenal in that classroom. What role am I playing there? And the answer was simple: 0. So now I gotta develop that skill set, and that's what I did. But then on the road, I was only talking about it sporadically. It wasn't like my full day. Now we start the day at 8 and end at 4.
I saw.
We go on instructional leadership from 8 to 4. You know, that's how I do it. The content that I developed is 30 hours, right? I'll never be able to deliver 30 hours unless it's a long term with the same district or school, whatever. But I mean, I'm saying that to say I have that much material, content to be able to just talk about instructional leadership for a week. Right, nonstop, because there's so much to be said. Now I do a school leadership institute every year where the folks come to me as opposed to me going to them. Every summer we go in a different city, so I'll have them from 9 to 4 both days. So we're gonna cover a lot of ground.
Where are you doing it this year?
Raleigh, North Carolina, July 15 and 16. So they can go to principalkafele.com to get the information on the home page. But Raleigh, North Carolina, and then we're together all day. We keep the group small. We try not to go over 100, so we can be intimate and just know each other, and sustain those relationships. To be quite frank, and this year this will be the first time I'm doing it this way. We're just gonna talk instructional leadership for 2 days.
Right. You know, I know you get this way more than I do. Is that, you know, people ask me now, like, even like educators, administrators and stuff like that, like, how do you run your own enterprise, your own business? I want to do that. I would. So, and I asked them, you know, the question I posed to them is, one, are you willing to sacrifice for what that means?
That's right.
Right? Like, I've seen you like on social media, LinkedIn, like all the different places. I said, you know, I tell them, I said, you know, like there's some months, I know for you, some months you might not see home but 5 days.
That's right.
Right?
If that.
Right. You know, I know when I was starting the business, like the $2,000 contracts, the $5,000, you know what I mean? What advice would you give to those who want to, you know, model themselves after what you've been able to do?
My first place would be the relationship you have with a significant other, if you have that person in your life. I would go there before we even talk business. I say to folks all the time, because see, here's the question they give me. How have you sustained a marriage for 35 years?
And I did. I lost mine because I didn't have, but go ahead.
35 years of marriage, 5 years of dating. So we've been together 40 years.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. But she met the other guy, meaning the one before Baruti Kafele.
Yeah.
Right. She met him
Yeah.
at a club in New York City, Bentley's. Right. So she knew him, and then I morphed after we met.
Yeah.
So she literally watched this thing, if not participated in it. Right. So now I say to folks, look, my wife, and she'll see this. She hears me say this all the time. My wife 100% supports my mission, my life's mission. This work defines me.
Yeah.
So imagine I got a partner, it's too much.
Yeah.
Then how do I do it?
Yeah. You
I
can't.
can't.
You can't.
When I look at her face when I leave home to go to the airport and she looking sad and all that, I can't do it.
Yeah,
but see,
you
I don't have
gotta take that.
She's smiling at me, man. Go
get
kiss. Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, if she would come with me, that's a whole different thing. But she's been with me a few times, and that's been challenging with the airport. The delays, the cancellations, the drive all night long. She's like, "This how you living? Yeah, this is what it is." Right. So. So I say that to say, so first you got to have somebody. If you got someone in your life,
yes,
they got to be down with what you do.
Yeah.
Because if they're not down with what you do, it's not going to work. Then we can have the other conversation about sustaining this. But to do, if somebody's watching and they want to do what I do, what you do, well, it can't be looked upon as like, this is my means of making money. No, this has got to be in your soul.
yes,
Right. It's in your heart and your soul that I feel like I'm making a difference and impact, that I'm changing people's professional realities. Right. So that's the fuel.
Yeah.
That keeps me doing it. Because I'll be 65 this year. Is my body getting slower? Definitely. Right. Is it getting tired? Most definitely.
Brother, I just turned 49, right? I don't know if the pandemic took it out of me or something like that, but
Probably did.
Like I ruptured both Achilles, right? The grind, it catches you,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't have it. I tell them it's like MJ, right? I can't give you 40 every night, right? On the Wizards, that joint got to be maybe like a week or two apart, right? But I want you to go a little bit deeper on that, right? Like so. I lost my first marriage because I was she met David Heiber, get a degree and work a 9 to 5, right? I don't think that's my life. That wasn't my life's purpose, right? I didn't seek out like, I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to go do.
Yeah.
I truly believe it's a higher calling, right? And when you try to go against it, something doesn't feel right inside.
Be miserable.
Right? And to your point, when you're talking about those early morning flights that you have to catch, or, I know you were traveling. I was traveling 2 days ago, sitting on a plane for 3 hours because bad wind, and then, maintenance. And then you on your phone trying to make a connection, or like, I got to get a rental car and drive that joint and stuff like that. But what through all that grind, what is some key or a key lesson that you've learned now that from the 64-year-old that will go back 39 years and tell the younger one? What would you say to yourself?
Yeah. As far as the work,
yes,
going back to talk to him, is to not lock yourself into one area, right? Because I did that. I was back in the early 2000s. I was the black male empowerment guy.
Yes. Yep.
And that was a thing during that time.
Yeah.
But I noticed now I had left my principalship to do this work, and I noticed the phone wasn't ringing as often. And I knew why, because as education is, everything is trendy. So now that trend is leaving. It's not that it's not relevant, the topic, but they're not looking for that now.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I said, but I have more to offer than just being the black male, the black male empowerment guy. Let me call the publisher and recommend this next book. So I tell them, closing the attitude gap, because I do a lot around attitude of students and staff.
Yeah.
And I said, you can't touch this title. It's got to be that, because I want people to think achievement gap and then say no, attitude gap, right? So we did. To this day, That's the biggest selling book I've ever written, right? Out of the 14 I've written, that one, the second one for ASCD, I've written 10 for them. So because what it allowed me to do was show the world now, wait a minute, there's more to me. Yeah. But then I wrote some more teacher books for them from a different angle. Then I said, but wait a minute, I was a leader for 14 years and I never wrote anything on leadership. And then I went on and wrote 6 books on leadership, right? So what I would say to him, don't lock yourself into one thing. And as a matter of fact, I say this to the young cats today, all the time. Don't lock yourself into that one thing that you're passionate about, because people might be calling you now, but will they be calling you 5 years from now for that same thing?
Wow.
Right? So don't lock yourself in. As far as the grind, I don't know that I'd say anything differently, because I've been grinding hard from the beginning. No, here's what I would say. How am I forgetting this? There's got to be some level of harmony and balance in your life. That's what I would tell them, because I didn't have balance.
Yeah.
Right. It was just grind. So as I'm sure you know, I had a heart attack on the stage with a mic in my hand on May 1st, 2015 at the University of Miami, because I got no balance. I know I'm a great husband, but outside of that, there's no harmony in my life. My diet is fast food for breakfast, fast food for snack, fast food for lunch, fast food for the afternoons, the evening snack, and then fast food for dinner, right, when I'm on the road. So it's just fast food. Well, my main artery on May 1st, 2015 clogged 100% while I was on that stage. That's known in the street as the Widowmaker, right? Because there's nothing being pumped right at that point. So I'm on the stage. I finished the speech because I didn't know what it was. So I didn't panic, right? So I finished the speech, but by the end of the speech, I knew I was in trouble because it intensified. They had a Q&A set up. After the second or third question, I said to the folks, I can't do no more, because I think I'm dying. They laugh, right? They literally, because they thought I was telling a joke. I said, no, I'm serious. So miraculously, there was a medical guy in that audience of 200 principals. And he diagnosed me. He said, you in the middle of a heart attack. So they got me to the hospital, put a stent in the artery. And when I woke up from surgery the next morning, they said, and type 2 diabetes came with the heart attack. Right. So now they said, you gotta change your lifestyle, your diet. What kind of exercise do you do? None. They said, okay, you gotta exercise. So now I'm living on these treadmills, or when the weather's warm, I'm walking around Jersey City. When I'm home, if I'm not home, then the hotel fitness room, putting in 2 to 3 miles, 5 days a week. And I lost 40 pounds. I lost 40 like 2 months after the heart attack. It all just fell off because I wasn't drinking the sugary drinks. I haven't had a soda in 10 years, right? Haven't had a donut, all that kind of stuff. But so I would say to that younger me, and I would say to someone that's watching this right now who thinks that they're a machine, these are things that happen to other people, because that was my philosophy. That'll never happen to me. Right, but it did, and it happened in front of 200 people. I spoke in Richmond County, Georgia last week, and a woman walks up on me and she said, Principal Kafele, when you had that heart attack, I was living in Miami. I was there. I said, you saw me laying on that stage? Because that's what the guy said. He said, no, I saw you. I was there. I said, wow. I said, well, praise God that I got through it. Yeah.
Well, Principal Brother Kafele.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What you do and continue to do is not just inspirational and aspirational, it's motivational, but it really speaks to the work that needs to be done, continues needs to be done. God has his hand on your life, and I appreciate your graciousness with your time, your effort, your openness, and just, thank you for making the time. I know you got a 2.5 hour drive ahead of you. There's some traffic, but there's so much more that we can go into. But I just want to thank you for continue doing your stuff, good brother. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you. Y'all don't understand how much of it is an honor to have this episode, brother. There's a handful of brothers, yourself, Malefe Asante, who was my professor at Temple.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Freeman Rabowski.
Beautiful.
That's where concentric came from, concentricity, which was Afrocentricity. That's where I got it from. So,
can I say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I wrote a Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children, I ain't know nothing about nothing. All I knew is I had an idea. And I sent my manuscript to all my, no, not the manuscript, the manuscript to all my heroes who were the writers, the historians and so forth, the educators. Just give me, tell me something. Well, they didn't respond, but one did.
Malefe?
Dr. Malefi Asante.
Yes.
I'm 30 years old, and he wrote a whole page and said, this is good stuff.
Yes.
Put this out there. I will never forget that for my entire life. That all my heroes, who are probably your heroes, this is the one that, you know his schedule. This man took this time to, even if he didn't read it, he said, I'm going to respond to this, brother. It's not like he could type me an email because it didn't exist. Right? He sent me snail mail.
Yep.
I like this.
Malefe, I was at Lincoln. I heard Malefe speak at Lincoln. I go to Temple for Temple Law School or grad school for African American Studies. Malefe sat me down, and Levi Wachuku, our department chair in history at Lincoln, was like, look, you've been locked up. I'm not telling you not to go to law school, but trying to pass the bar, the ethics piece might not. So I go to I go to Malefe. I'm under Malefe. I'm a teacher at the time. Second year in, I'm a administrator, and we're talking. And he was like, look, I was like, I'm going to be a college professor. He was like, no, you don't. He's like, I think you want to do other things. And we start talking about putting students at the center of what we do. And he was like, well, Afrocentricity is putting Africans and the Africans of the diaspora at the center of social phenomena. He was like, I think you have something there. And concentricity was my thesis. And then concentric is the company name for concentricity, my theory of change, all because of Malefe. And, after 16 years, I'm putting out our first book, One Door at a Time and stuff like that. It's coming. But I was concentricity is based upon Malefe. I hadn't talking to Malefe in probably 8-9 years. I shot him an email. I was like, I would be honored if you would write my foreword. 5 minutes later, he emails back and said, brother, where the hell has this been? Of course.
See.
But what I'm saying is that's the stratosphere you're in, man. Right? Like that's what we look at. Right? The graciousness with the time and stuff like that. So thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can go to get all your content.
Principalkafele.com. Principalkafele.com. You'll see all my social media. You'll see everything is right there.
I appreciate you so much. I want to thank everybody for joining in. As always, you can catch all of our content at concentric.world. Until next time, I'm your host, David Heiber. See you. Brother.